Ironman 70.3 in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Now this was something that I definitely never thought I would be doing in my life. 2 years ago, I thought it was insane to run a half marathon. I don't think at that point I'd ever ran more than probably 3 consecutive miles. I played football growing up, I did track, but on all the throwing events, I avoided running as much as I possibly could. So after coming back from a trip to Europe at the end of March, we had a little less than 12 weeks to get ready for this half Ironman, and probably didn't do as much training as we should have. But for me, I had a background in swimming as a kid. I was a competitive swimmer until about 6th grade, but I hadn't done any lap swimming in probably the last 10 years or so. So that was something I kind of had to retrain my body to do. Hadn't really spent much time on a bike in the last 5 years, so I needed to get some time there. And then obviously running, I just kind of came off a failed marathon attempt due to a knee injury. So that was gonna be a challenge as well to make sure I didn't re-injure that going into this half Ironman. So each week we were doing about 2 runs a week, 2 swims a week, and then 1 session on the bike is about where I was at. So not a huge amount of training, but I was also lifting 5 days a week because that's something that's kind of always been a foundation of my health, and it's something that I think allows me to stay in good shape year round and kind of be ready for these events and just have to kind of increase that endurance. So during that time training, we're kind of figuring out the techniques, figuring out what we need for nutrition, gear, all of that sort of stuff. Ironmans are very, very logistical. It's not just go out there and run 13 miles like you could with a half marathon. You gotta figure out all the gear, you gotta figure out how to swim in open water and know where you're going. You gotta figure out your nutrition as far as salt intake, carbohydrate intake per hour, so you're not cramping up and you're staying fueled. So I'm reading books, watching YouTube videos, trying to get it as figured out as I could come race day. And granted, the hardest part with all this is I live in Arizona now. I'm from Montana initially, but I live in Arizona, and at this point in time, the day, it's already well above 100 degrees. So in order to get open water swims in, where we need to train in our wetsuit so we know what that's like, because we have to wear the wetsuit during the race, the water in the lakes is already pretty warm and it's well above 100 during the day outside, so it's super easy to overheat. So we had to wake up around 4:30 so that we could be training by 5 a.m., whether that's getting our run in outside, a bike, or our open water swims. So led to some very early mornings for me towards the end of this prep. Had to come show you a little sunrise action here in AZ. Oh, we're putting on the protein coffee. It's 4:50 a.m. and it's 88 degrees out already, so almost 90 degrees. The sun's not even up yet. Gonna be a good day, let's go. But we got it all done. We're coming upon race week, and we headed up to Montana the Thursday before race weekend. We get up to Montana and we go into a open water kind of last run through trial swim at Lake Como outside of Missoula. And boy, I tell you, when I got in that water, I was a little bit worried because I chose to go with a sleeveless wetsuit, and man, that water was a whole lot colder. We've been swimming in the lakes in Arizona where the water almost feels like a pool. It's kind of lukewarm, and getting in that cold mountain lake, it was a little shocking. It made me a little bit worried because you get in the water, start breathing a little fast because of how cold it is, and then eventually kind of hands and arms get a little numb or red because of the temperature of the water. But need to say, we got that swim done and was feeling pretty good heading into it. Did a little run through on the bike, make sure that was all good to go, and then we took the next day off to recover and headed over to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, which is where the race was. So we walked through, got our race packets and everything set up, kind of looked at the transition area, got a feel for how things were gonna go the next morning, and then went and looked out in the lake and to see how far out that buoy really was, because we haven't ever had a visual on the true distance for the swim. It's 1.2 miles, and it didn't really look like it was too bad, too far going out there. So we felt pretty good about that. because that was going to be probably one of the most challenging parts, was an open water swim when you have hundreds of thousands of people surrounding you and climbing on top of you and splashing. It's definitely one of the more challenging parts of the race for sure. But the weather is supposed to be good, so we had high hopes and we were super excited to get after it the next morning. All right, so it is Saturday, June 22nd, the night before my first ever Ironman 70.3. We are here in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and we have it is 8 o'clock, so we have about 10 hours until we line up to get in the water. It all kind of changed when I had a friend from high school that reached out, asked me to do a full marathon. I was like, no, there's no way, dude. Like, I lift, I'm not a runner. And then got off that phone call, called him back like 20 minutes later, and I was like, not gonna do the full, but I will do the half marathon with you. So I ended up doing that. Funny enough, I don't think he even ended up doing it, but I ended up doing that half marathon 1 year ago from tomorrow, actually, exactly a year ago. And after that was done, like it really just opened my mind up, realized how much more is actually possible. Like, I had put that label on myself for so long that I'm not a runner. So I don't think I ever ran above probably 2 continuous miles before that point. And once I ran that, like, it just totally opened everything up. And then at the beginning of this year, did the Goggins 4x4x48 challenge, which is running 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. And then at the end, Justin, who's doing this half Ironman with me, was like, why not? We're at mile 48. Why don't we do one more lap or whatever and get past mile 50? So ended up being 52 miles in 48 hours with pretty much no sleeping. And just by doing that, another very, very hard physical thing that I didn't think I could do before, once you do that, the possibilities open up and they're just absolutely endless. So while I've never done a triathlon before, it is probably going to be the hardest thing I've done physically thus far in my life. I've got a 1.2 mile swim, 56 mile bike, and then a half marathon to finish. My prediction for right now is probably around 5.5 hours. That's what I'd like to get. It's like the average for my age group at this time for this particular course, and it's a lot hillier than most half Ironmans. So it's definitely one of the harder ones out there. One of the reasons that I chose, just even to do a half Ironman itself, or why I like getting into these endurance things, is because so much of it is just that mental aspect where your body doesn't feel great, start hurting very, very early on in the race, and be able to push through that and keep going, and whatever it is, run for another 10 miles. It's going to be swim for another 30 minutes, bike for another 56 miles. All of that after your brain has already told you that you're in pain and you should stop. It just really shows you that we're capable of a lot more than we think, and our bodies are capable of a lot more than our minds actually are. So if you're somebody out there that's put that label on yourself that you're not a runner, or you're not, whatever it is, you're not a business owner, you're not, you don't lift weights, whatever that label is that you put on yourself, you're gonna believe that until you get rid of that label, do that thing, and put a different label on yourself. So I urge you, if you have those labels right now that you put on yourself, do a little kind of assessment, self-assessment, get rid of any sort of negative label that may be holding you back, and go do something in that area that you didn't think you could do before, because you are capable of a lot more than you think you are. All right, getting all set up for the morning, so we are ready to rock. We got breakfast laid out here, 2 bagels. We're gonna scoop of peanut butter with the cold brew protein we have in the fridge. Almond butter on the bagels. We're gonna smash a banana, and then we're gonna drink 1 bottle of water with a liquid IV in it. And then we got the tri-suit laid out right here, sweatshirt, sweatpants for heading to the starting line and getting all the things set up. And then here we got the wetsuit, and then tri-bag that has gels, bike shoes, running shoes, helmet, sunglasses, and then of course we got our number here on the belt. So everything is ready to go. It is currently 8:15, so I'm gonna shut all these lights off. It's still bright outside, but gotta wake up at 4:40, so gotta hit the hay, get a solid 8 hours of sleep so that we can crush this race. So see y'all on the other side. Come the next morning, we are pulling up to the start, or kind of that transition zone by Ironman Village, and the wind is absolutely ripping this morning. Weather was supposed to be kind of clear day, nice and warm, not too hot but not too cold, and we go look at the lake and there's white caps all over the place, pretty big waves, and everybody was a little bit worried about the swim. They ended up delaying the swim time. Initially, I think it was about 20 minutes to kind of see if the wind would subside a little bit and some of those waves would go down. It comes down to it, we line up for the swim. There's tons and tons of people, and the way they do it is, I think there's 3 gates as you walk onto the beach, and then every 3 or 5 seconds the timer goes off and 3 people enter the water, so that not everybody's rushing at once. But even so, with that, once you get into the water, it is just like a war zone. Like, people are grabbing you, on top of you. I'm trying to swim around people at this point. You're supposed to go kind of based on what your estimated time was, and there were so many people that should have been in a later group. I kind of put myself in the middle of the pack based on where I had previously swam in training that 1.2 miles. So I put myself in that middle of the pack where I thought I was, and I was just trying to get around people the entire time. There were people that were just sitting in the water, kind of doggy paddling, not really moving. So I'm trying to get around people. You almost have to kind of go over the top of some people, and you can't really see where you're going. You go to breathe and a wave hits you in the face. It is just brutal for that period of time. But needless to say, come out of the water and I am a little bit dizzy, super disoriented. I'm trying to unzip my wetsuit, as you can see in the video, and I just can't grab the strap. That's all I can think about, and I almost feel like I'm a little bit dazed or drunk at this point coming out of the water, like a little off. Didn't really feel like my balance was there, just because you're so disoriented when your head's in the water. You can't really see anything below you, and it's just splashing and whatnot. So coming out, finally get the wetsuit off, get to the transition, have a couple gels, throw on the bike shoes, take off the wetsuit, and we are off on the bike. And immediately you're going through town, crowds cheering, gets you all amped up. And the first little bit is we go about 15 miles along the side of the lake and back, not too hilly, feel good. I'm pushing, I'm passing some people, and I feel absolutely great until you come back through downtown and go up the other side of the lake, and there it is. I finally see it. The reason the Coeur d'Alene half Ironman is so difficult, the hills you have to climb on the bike. We get to the base of them and I'm like, oh, it's just like up this little hill where I can see, but no. It was brutal. It felt never ending with these hills on the bike, and it's hard to describe. You're going so slow at this point, and I knew there were hills and I knew it was hard, but I didn't think it was gonna be that hard on the bike. And it's an out and back, so at this point I'm just waiting for the leader to come back going the other way, so that I know that we're relatively close. Because I would say that at this point I was probably in the first third of the people in the race. So I'm waiting for that guy to come down. We climb this first big hill and immediately go right back down a huge hill, which only means one thing: what goes up must come down. So we go back down, and then we have to go back up another massive hill before we were able to turn around. So finally get done with the bike. My back and my neck and my ass are all killing me from sitting on the seat in that kind of hunched over position. One of the things that I wish I would have done is spent a lot more time on the bike, not necessarily to get my legs in good shape or endurance, but just get my low back and my butt used to the seat in that position because it was very, very uncomfortable. But we finish nice and hard with the bike, power into transition, and once you get off your bike at this kind of dismount line, in my head I'm like, all right, I'm gonna pop off. You got to unclip your shoes and then start jogging in towards my little transition spot where I put my running shoes on, and unclip my feet hit the ground, and I go to take one step and I just about fall over running into this transition. I'm sure people were watching everybody do that all day long, as there were definitely some laughs in the crowd. But from there, I'm like, all right, we're just gonna walk the bike in. It's kind of hard to run in those shoes too, with like the brackets on the bottom of those bike shoes. So walking in transition, take off the bike shoes, get the bike helmet off, hang up my bike, throw on my running shoes, put a couple more gels down, and throw some gels in my race suit as well. From there, I'm running out to basically where the run course starts, and like my feet are numb. I can't feel my feet at this point. Talking to some people that are like spectators on the side, I'm like, I don't even know if I still have legs below me because I can't feel anything, but we're moving. So we get onto the run course, we're going decent, and about 1 mile in, both of my quads lock up. Like, if you can think about flexing your quad muscle as hard as you can, that was what the cramp, or how they locked up for a good solid 2 minutes. That quad was just fully contracted and I couldn't bend my knees. So I had to come to a complete stop for a minute and just kind of sit there. Did not feel good at all. And then eventually it kind of started wobbling along with like straight legs because my knee was locked out from my quad contracting. And I put 2 gels down, which are some sodium in the gels. And after about 2 minutes, the quads released and I was able to start running again. Made it to the first aid station. And each aid station was about 1.5 miles apart. And it was about every time I'd come upon an aid station, I just barely made it there before I could kind of feel my quads start cramping again. I was able to put down some carbs, put down some more electrolytes with sodium, and I'd be ready to rock again. I'd run to the next aid station, and then I'd feel the same thing start to come on. But needless to say, we got the run done with, the run was great with all the aid stations and the support of everybody all along the street cheering for you. Like, the environment is just so energizing on that run.
Bridger, go! Let's go, Bridger! Go, Bridger! Let's go! Go, Bridger, go! Let's go! Go, Bridger, go!
Which is on the bike, you're in the middle of nowhere, just grinding kind of by yourself. So the run definitely energizes you, fills you up, but we got it done and ended up crossing the finish line a little over 6 hours. We got 6 hours and 5 minutes, so a lot longer. I had kind of initially wanted to be at 5.5 hours, which was about the average for my age group, but nonetheless, I had a few people ask how many Ironmans I'd done, and I told them it was my first one, and they were pretty impressed by the time. So I don't have a great idea on what's a good time for your first one, but needless to say, the bike absolutely wrecked me, and I think if I'm able to shave more time off of that, maybe have a little bit nicer bike too that's a little more aerodynamic, or at least has the aero bars, because I didn't have the aero bars on mine, that would make the riding more comfortable as well. But that concluded the race for me. I was able to go get some food, kind of take off the shoes and decompress a little bit before cheering on my man Justin as he came through the finish line as well. Now, like I said in the beginning, an Ironman is something that I never thought I would accomplish or do or even compete in, and it just goes to show you that like everything we do and accomplish starts up here. Like, I had told myself for years, put that label on myself that I'm not a runner, I don't do these things, but I've really kind of fallen in love with endurance sports because of how much it just it's hard, it sucks, and it pushes you so much to keep going, keep working beyond what your mind tells you can do, and working beyond that point where things start to hurt or get uncomfortable. Because with lifting, we push as hard as we can for a good 10 to 40 seconds, I would say, lifting for a set. And granted, yeah, it's hard. You're pushing yourself there and pushing weight and whatnot. But to be able to go for hours and hours after your mind tells you that you should stop or you start to feel some sort of pain or something, just really, really changes your perspective on what you can do, how much you can accomplish. I want to show other people and show you that you can accomplish anything you set out to do. And I truly believe that. I know everybody says that, but it's really true, because I never thought I'd be running more than 5 miles, and here I am completing a half Ironman. So my challenge to you this year is to, whatever you think you can do the next thing above that. So if you think that you can run a half marathon, no problem. I want you to sign up for a marathon. Do something that you never thought you could do before, and you're not ever going to feel like you're in the perfect position or like you're 100% ready for it. Sign up for it first and then figure out how to train for it. Granted, give yourself enough time. Signing up for a half Ironman next week probably isn't the best idea, but give yourself not too much time, but enough time to realistically prep for it. And once you complete that like first thing that you thought was out of your grasp, your whole world is going to change. Things are going to open up for you, new possibilities, and you're going to have a transformation. It's not a physical transformation, but a mental transformation. And I think those are far more valuable than any sort of physical transformation you have. And granted, yeah, you'll be in a lot better shape. You'll probably look a little bit better too. But the mental transformation you have from finishing or completing something that you did not think you would ever be able to do is just beyond this world. So don't limit yourself. Go out there, push yourself for something new this year, and expand that mind, expand your limits. So thank you for watching this video, tuning in to my Ironman journey. Super excited to maybe compete in some more of these half Ironmans, or even do some ultra marathons. I've been looking at those recently, like the ones 50 or 100 miles through the mountains. Definitely something that I think is absolutely insane and will definitely push me to that next level. But needless to say, thanks for tuning in. Go follow me and connect with me on Instagram, and drop me a follow here if you're looking for more health and fitness, knowledge, advice, nutrition, and motivation, and we'll keep it coming.